Alright, so welcome to this video guide on Heart of the Swarm Terran changes. There's a lot of changes to Terran, not necessarily new units. I mean, there is new units, but that's not the major changes. Major changes we're going to discuss are... I'm just watching some of these units attack. So what I mean by the changes, sorry I got distracted with that attack. There's just a lot of upgrades in units that are different than they used to be. The first one is vehicle and ship plating are now joined, so it's a little bit cheaper to upgrade your vehicles. Like I get ship armor and vehicle armor on the same upgrade. It's definitely a little bit cheaper. Another major unit that gets changed is the Reaper. It's got entirely reworked, and we'll show you how that is. First, they don't need a tech lab to be produced anymore, so you could have a reactored barracks and start getting out Reapers. Additionally, they now heal quickly when not in combat. So, for example, if this one gets attacked, it's going to sit there for a while. It will start healing. Another thing you should note, so the healing's pretty quick once it's out of combat. Reapers no longer do bonus damage to light units. I've got +2 weapons, the one that's only 4. They do hit 2 attacks, but they basically do like no damage now. And I know they're trying to buff the Reaper, but they're kind of like, they feel really weak at the lower damage. So I'm hoping they'll pick up damage a little bit before release. They do have more health now, 60 health. For that kind of, for just a 1 supply investment, that is pretty good. The other thing you should note is that they have a speed upgrade automatically. There's no more speed upgrade. And so not only the heal, but also they took away the bonus damage attack to buildings. So when they attack a building, it's so slow. This is a lot of Reapers attacking a weak supply depot. They just can't kill buildings anymore. But they are always fast, they are easier to produce. And one thing they can do now is they can actually see up cliffs. And what I mean by that is, before, if you wanted to attack units on the cliff, it looks like they took it away. Yep, they took it away. Before, you were able to see up here, but it looks like they removed that ability. So you could attack stuff on the low ground without having to jump up, but looks like they just took that away in a recent patch. This is beta patch 12, by the way. So, you know how the Reaper works, and I'll show you what it's like. I mean, it's actually, I think it's going to get buffed more, because right now it just doesn't seem as useful as they want it. So, they are fast, but maybe players will make better use of it than I have so far, but they don't do enough damage. I mean, like, if you want to kill buildings, it's nothing. So, I mean, in theory, they're still good at killing stuff, but they're so slow at even killing, you know, at killing probes that I think it's just a little too disappointing to me. So hopefully they boost the damage out. Because those 7 Reapers in live now, they would have killed all these probes by the time the person responded. So that's the Reaper. Another change to some more old units is the Battlecruiser. They originally changed it to buff its damage against ground units. Like in live it does 8. In Heart of the Swarm they changed it to 10, but then they felt it was too powerful and took it back down to 8. So there's actually no change to Battlecruiser damage. If you're reading that somewhere, that's just an old report. Siege tanks no longer require siege tech technology. They always have it. So as soon as they come out, they can start doing siege mode. That's a very nice buff. And Thors now have a new attack called High Impact Payload. When you use this, and as you can see, they kind of took away the cannon. Now then, so they have High Impact Payload, and when you use that... Yeah, Thor has no energy too, by the way. When you use that, let's see if this will work. So when you have a nice powerful attack versus air units now that you used to not have. It still only has a range. It has a range of 10, and you can see that the Thor does good damage versus single targets, whereas this thing does not very much damage versus single targets. Okay, so while those Thors handle the Tempest, I'm actually going to have to bring some SCVs in to repair. So the point defense room, by the way, is really good versus the Tempest. Because they attack so slowly, it takes them forever to drain one of these. You can see it's trying to run, but they pretty much neutralize the Tempest threat. So anyway, well, this is just a test video, by the way, if you're wondering why everything is weird like that. So we've got the Thor's new attack. We got to see that in action. Siege chunks no longer need range. There was a unit called the Warhound, but they removed it in a patch. I don't think it's going to come back by release, because release is coming soon. So another thing to know about the Raven is that it always has Seeker Missile. Now, they keep adding it and taking it away, but as of the latest patch, it's free. You don't have to research it. The Seeker Missile just starts with the Raven. And they could have changed its, buffed its speed a little bit. So it's a little bit better than it used to be. And it doesn't take so long to get out the Raven. Okay, so pretty much covered all the changes to the old units except for the Medevac. So the Medevac is here. It works the same way as before, but now it has this Ignite ability. Lets it move fast for 8 seconds. It's so good. Because once you use it, the medic moves really fast for 8 seconds. Like, the drops are just insane. You can sneak in and sneak out so fast. And it doesn't cost any energy. So I think it's a little bit overpowered. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't last as long, or the cooldown's a little bit longer, because right now it's like you can use it constantly. It's kind of ridiculous. And it also is really good for letting the Medevac keep up with stimming unit like bio that's stimming and running down the map. Okay, so we've discussed all the changes to the old units. Now let's look at some of the new ones. The first one is the Widow Mine. And that's this guy here. It is a ground unit. It costs 75 minerals, 25 gas. It does take up 2 supplies though, so that is something to keep in mind. And it doesn't have any attacks until it burrows. When it does, it gets this missile attack here. The missile does 125 damage to its target plus splash damage, so it's kind of a lot of damage. And it only can attack once every 40 seconds though. It is cloaked and does have health, but once the computer kind of discovers this, it's they're pretty vulnerable once they've been attacked. But they are really good early in the game, and they do even though they cost gas, they don't require any buildings but a factory. One really good use for these is on drops, because they do so much damage, and I've seen this strategy used, especially if the Terran players on one base, they rush to Widow Mines, and they can drop these, and they do a lot of damage. So maybe we'll see a Widow Mine attack there. There you go. So they're pretty good, but these now can't attack for the next, Well, that was a mistake. Okay. So, I don't know if you noticed this, but these Tempests are really good versus Battlecruisers. They killed my Battlecruiser so quickly. So I think we're in a spot now that I can actually ignore those. Okay, so the Widow Mines. They're really good at killing probes, as you might imagine, given their 125 damage plus splash. Particularly if the probes have no upgrades. That means the splash damage will one-shot. This is a little later in the game, so we're likely going to see some upgrades. Oh. Okay, so you can use your afterburners to run in here. And if you're better than me, you can you see we get a lot of probe kills that way. A little sloppy on the micro, but there is an upgrade for those that lets the Widow Mine go faster. I mean, burrow faster. So I'll show you what that's like once it's finished. Okay, so that's the Widow Mine. You have a good idea of how it works. It's really good just sitting at your ramp or to drop like that. The computer kind of cheats a little bit because I am playing computer. It knows where I'm at and defense attacks faster than your average player is going to. And a lot of times, if you rush the Widow Mines and the Medevac, they won't have any anti-air, and you can just take out their whole mineral line. It's very effective. Widow Mines are also good, just running them into like a Protoss expansion. So let's see what we got here. Okay, so you don't even need to drop. You can just rush them in here and burrow them. They're pretty fast. I mean, they're not super fast, but 2.5, they move like a regular unit does. It's not like it's not like a Locust or something really slow that moves. So they don't have the upgrade yet, but once they're in, you know, how many kills we get? 2, 4, 4. Well, that's good. That's definitely worth it. You know, 10 unit kills with just 3 things. So the upgrade is done now. Definitely faster. But, you know, it's not a huge increase, but it is nice, especially if you're dropping and harassing. So that's the Widow Mine. The only other unit I haven't discussed yet is the Hellbat, which basically, it requires an armory, but it's produced out of a factory, and it's basically the same unit as a Hellion. Like, the Hellion converts back and forth to a Hellbat. It takes 4 seconds. It converts, gets more HP though. So one thing that's interesting about that is some Vikings out to deal with these air units. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, the Hellbat here has more health, does a lot of damage. 30 with no upgrades to light, 16 and 30. Or, it's gotta be 18 and 30. Yeah, 18 and 30. So, once these take damage, they can actually be healed by Medevacs. Like, that's what makes them unusual. And once they do take damage, they share percentage-wise with Hellions. So the Hellion's gonna be, you know, I'll be just over 50% health. When it's in Hellbat mode, it's still gonna be just over 50% health. So we're just letting some of these come out. So what the Hellbats are really good for is they're really good actually in mech armies because they only cost 2 supplies. They have solid armor, or not really solid armor. They have solid damage and they attack in like this wave-like pattern. You can see they will get healed by the Medevac. And they do good damage, but they act like kind of tanks if you're using Thors and siege tanks. Not as in a siege tank, but they'll be like a meat shield for your siege tanks. They're really good at killing Zerglings. It makes a mech play really tough to deal with a Zerg without tier 3 units, because you have the Hellbats in the front, and they not only do they tank Zerglings, they don't need to kite like a Hellion does, but they still do a ton of damage to Zerglings. Just to give you an idea of their damage. This would be splash damage if it was actually an enemy unit. So they do good damage. Their short range means they really need tanks behind them, Thors behind them to do damage. They're just kind of a tank and they soak up, they just destroy Zealots and Zerglings and things like that. But I think that's everything. If any changes come, I'll try to update. And for more specific videos on the Hellion and the Widow Mine, you can see the description.